Hello, everyone. A very good day from Berlin, and we're at SUSECON 2024 with our friends from Pure Storage. And honestly speaking, I think I spoke to Kalyan from your team last time around at KubeCon, and it's good to see new faces come around every time, to be honest, because I get to talk to more people. And people from our channel on viewing our channel are already aware we've got a tight partnership going on with you folks. So do you want to talk about what Works by Pure Storage does?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So, Portworx by Pure Storage, we like to call it a container data management platform.
Mhm.
And what that means in maybe more simpler terms is we provide software defined storage for Kubernetes.
Right.
And beyond that, we also do DR, we do data protection. So, kind of providing this holistic platform for Kubernetes is the name of our game. And what we do for our customers is we help automate, protect, and unify their modern applications at enterprise scale. And I'll break down what each of those words mean because I know they can kind of seem like marketing
Marketing
buzzwords.
words, yeah.
Yeah. So when we think about automate, what we do is we automate storage processes pretty much across the entire application lifecycle, right?
Right.
And this really helps our organizations that we work with put their applications out in market faster. So from the protect standpoint, we provide enterprise grade business continuity that includes high availability, includes disaster recovery and data protection, like I talked about.
Right.
And then the final unify piece, I think that's probably most interesting for SUSE and Rancher, because I know that choice happens is
Yes.
your tagline for this event, right?
Yep.
And providing customers flexibility to choose what they want
One.
as far as their infrastructure or pretty much anything, right? So we are also able to provide that flexibility for our customers. We're completely infrastructure agnostic, so they can store their data anywhere. So they can
Right.
store it on-prem. They don't have to use a Pure Storage flash array, but of course we love that.
Oh,
And they can store it in the cloud, and they can work with pretty much any Kubernetes distribution also. So if they want to run on Rancher, they can. If they also want to run on EKS, they can do that too. So being able to provide that flexibility is just as important for us as it is for you.
yeah. And I think when you're in the open source ecosystem, flexibility is the name of the game because the whole underlying ethos of open source in general is to promote collaborative efforts and to promote that flexibility in offering, I wouldn't say customers, but our entire community, an array of choices rather than restricting them to just one single thing, right? Like open source as an ecosystem is, I think, the promoter of choice. And I'm not trying to tie back to the tagline, but it just happens. I've been very well prepped, as you can see. But one of the things that I think Kalyan spoke about extensively last time, and I'd also like to touch base upon a little bit, is our partnership. Because you said that of course, there are a lot of providers you support, but what are the specific, you know, gaps that our partnership, that is Rancher and Portworx partnership, sort of bridges, and what are those gaps in the ecosystem that we're trying to address with this partnership?
Yeah, so I'll address the partnership part of the question first, but this is the first year that we're really driving what we call a strategic partnership between our two companies. And what that means is that we have real marketing efforts, we have product, we have sales, we have buy-in from pretty much every org across Portworx to really drive what this joint partnership is going to look like. So we're really excited to see what growth we're able to see there because even without our strategic partnership, we already have several Rancher customers that are using Portworx and Rancher together, and they've been able to see a lot of value through that. So that's something we're really excited about, especially as we kind of see cloud native environments becoming more and more the norm.
Yep.
And I do actually want to get into this new report that we just published, and then I'll talk a little bit more
Yep.
about the market gaps that we're addressing. But I'm going to make sure I say this right because it's a mouthful, but the survey that we released is called The Voice of Kubernetes Experts: Top Data Trends Driving the Future of the Enterprise.
Wow,
Big
that's a
mouthful.
mouthful. That is a
Yeah.
mouthful.
Yeah, and I think I got it right, so I'm pretty pleased with myself. But we interviewed about 500 Kubernetes experts, and the reason why we call them experts is, I don't know if you know this, but Kubernetes celebrated their 10-year anniversary,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I'm actually one of the upstream maintainers, so I do know
Oh,
that.
great. Yeah, yeah. So obviously, if you play in the Kubernetes space, that's a really exciting birthday.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's like Kubernetes has finally hit like their teenage years. The project has finally become a teenager.
exactly. And that's pretty much what we saw in this report. So we say Kubernetes experts because over half of the people that we surveyed for this report had over 4 years of Kubernetes experience. And if you think about the technology being 10 years old, having 4+ years of experience is huge.
Is huge, yeah.
Yeah. So we very much consider them advanced users, almost like trendsetters, I guess
Yep.
you could say, in the
Yep.
cloud-native space. And from that audience, we saw that 80% plan to build most of their new applications in their cloud-native environment.
Yep.
Yeah, so we've seen that Kubernetes is beyond, like you mentioned, their child phase,
Yeah.
right? It's no longer about adoption, but it's
Correct.
about the growing maturation, the
Yeah.
teenage years,
Yes,
as
they're
you said.
teenagers, surely.
Yeah.
And anyone who's had a teenager, I don't, but I remember being one. So I remember being a teenager and not a very good teenager at that, pretty much in their rebellious, growing into your own shoes phase. So yeah, I
Yeah.
completely get where that's coming from. And one of the things, as you mentioned, like with the maturity and with all of the evolution that's going to come, that lies ahead of us, I'm interested in the kind of work that we're also already doing with a lot of the customers, joint customers that we share. Could you shed some light on that? Because I think it would be a very good example for our audience to understand where we are actually partnering currently and what are some of the problems that we solve for our customers jointly together.
Yeah, totally. I would love to talk about that. So, what we've seen with a lot of our customers is that when they're first adopting Kubernetes and they're beginning their containerization journey, they realize that these small deployments actually work really well, right?
Right.
But once they start building those applications out, that's when they start running into issues
Yep.
with the scalability, the performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it really just bogs down their developers. So one of our customers, their name is HealthEdge.
Yep.
They are a healthcare software company that helps validate patients' medical claims.
Right.
They started their containerization journey with just one application.
Right.
So this was a database application where they were holding patient addresses. And for each customer instance, they needed a new instance of that database. So as you can imagine, when you have hundreds of customers, that really gets
To be a scaling problem.
yeah, pretty sticky really fast, right? So their developers were spending 400+ hours just manually updating each of these databases. And that doesn't sound fun for me. I'm sure it wasn't fun for them. It was something that she really described as low value work where
Yeah.
you need an engineer behind it, but they're not really doing anything of real
Anything
value.
except manual entries, and that I don't think is adding value to. I mean, it does add value eventually in the sense that you learn from your mistakes probably and you learn to improve from them, but it sure must not have been fun doing it
No, I could not
on the
imagine
grounds.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when they were using Rancher and Portworx, they were able to drive down those database instances down to a single one.
Wow.
And that cut the work from 400 hours to 4 hours. So
That
that
is a monumental decrease. I wouldn't like, it's almost like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
yeah, and what's cool about that story is obviously it's a very small application, it's not mission critical for them, but the amount of manual effort that they were able to just kind of take off the map
Right.
and give their developers, what is that, 396 hours of their day back or their job back is huge.
It is huge.
And I think if you think about that also in the context of maybe more critical applications, think of how much more time you could save there, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that sounds like such a huge amount of effort and time and, cycles of work saved, not just um to the people involved, but also like the machines involved, really. I feel for those machines now.
Yeah. So we save them a lot of time and effort, for
Yes.
sure.
And where are we headed next with respect to, the kind of innovations that we're looking between the two of us?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we have to be excited for. I think where Portworx is really able to help current Rancher customers is with that enterprise scale piece. We're really able to optimize storage performance and then provide that resilient platform,
True.
right? And we do have buy-in with our product organization who's been able to put together this Portworx plugin in the Rancher console. So you
Oh,
can use Portworx directly within the Rancher console.
oh,
And this is kind of our first step of creating that 1+1=3 equation that I know you all also really love.
love.
And how can we get there together? So that's
Yep.
what we're kind of building right now.
Yep.
And my colleague Vincent is going to help demo some of that for us.
Okay, Winston, you're up on the spot. Do you want to walk us through the demo, please?
Sure. Okay, so as Janet talked about, I will just show and start with the the Rancher extension. As you say,
Yep.
having an ecosystem is very important.
Yep.
And so using Rancher extension, we can obviously extend and enhance Rancher UI. So we have a basic Rancher cluster, and then we've added the Portworx extension. So obviously the goal, the purpose of that extension is to provide visibility
Correct.
into the Portworx. So on the left menu, you can see we have a Portworx menu.
Yep.
And with this menu, you can have all the information related to your Portworx cluster. So obviously you will have basic information like versions. On the right, you can see some activities, events, and obviously you will have all the storage related information. This plugin will allow our customers to obviously have a comprehensive visibility of what they are doing on their Rancher cluster. And that's it for the plugin. And then I will show a bit of the enterprise grade features we've talked about with Janet. So with this video, I would like to talk a bit about Autopilot. Autopilot, that's a Portworx feature that allows our customers to automate the storage provisioning.
Right.
It could be obviously the storage provisioning on the containers, on the applications, but also with Portworx Autopilot, you can automate the provisioning on the backend of the storage of the backend. So this storage could be on public cloud, on VMware vSphere, and obviously a pure storage flash array. The idea behind that is to save time for the operation, less overhead for the teams, and also save money.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you cannot do online operation, if you cannot automate operation, you will have to over provision. And as you know, if you over provision, you will pay for it upfront,
And
not in the future.
that's something that I, as a former systems engineer, have like run into many times. If there's no automation, you end up actually, compensating for the fact that you don't have it. And whether it's by costs, whether it's through, extra manual efforts, or even, the extra amount of initiative required to get those things in place, right? So definitely see the value in like autopilot coming into picture, really.
So let's see now how we could use Autopilot. And as Janet said, we are agnostic. So you could use, even without the backend automation, you could use on every Rancher cluster, you can
Yeah.
use the automatic provisioning of storage on your PVCs. So that's maximizing the time of our users.
Yeah.
So I used a Rancher cluster, and what I will do is I will try to simulate an actual application, and I will fill its storage volume. So I created a basic namespace, and then I will use Autopilot and a rule. So Autopilot, that's based on the principle of creating policies. In the policies, that's you will define what do you want to manage, because obviously you have the choice to finely tune and customize your provisioning rules. So you don't have to provision all your application the same way. Using these policies, as you can see, we will focus on a specific namespace, the DB one with the label DB. We will focus on a specific PVC. We can use labels to select those PVC. And then the main part of the rule is what will trigger the rule.
Yeah.
So in this case is the storage used above a certain threshold. And then what will we do with that when
Yeah.
the threshold is reached? And what will we do is we will try to, in my example, to double the size of the PVC
Yeah.
automatically.
Yeah.
Obviously, the feedback from our customers was most of the time, during on-call, it's about storage missing.
Yeah.
My application went rogue. I don't know why, but I need more storage. Otherwise,
Yeah.
my application will stop. So Autopilot will address these issues.
Yeah.
Then I have my policies, and I will apply it. As simple as that.
Yeah.
And obviously, after applying my policies, I will simulate loading a PVC,
Yeah.
and we will see what Portworx will do with that.
Yeah.
So the first thing is I create my policy. Now I will check the namespace, and I will generate load.
Yep.
So I create my disk filler pod, and I will generate load on my PVC. My rule is here. My PVC is 10 gig, as you can see with Portworx command line and Rancher UI. And now I will check at autopilot events, just as simple as that, to see what autopilot is doing.
Correct.
Obviously, this is a bit accelerating to avoid spending 3 minutes looking at the logs. So what will we see in a few moments is that autopilot detected that we have a PVC that is okay with all the filters I've put, like the namespace labels and the PVC labels. Then we are waiting for some event. In the background, we are filling up the PVC. And so after a few moments, we will see that autopilot will trigger the rule. And then once the rule is triggered, autopilot will apply the actions that we've set in the policy. So actions is to double the size of the PVC. So from 10 gig, we have 20 gig as we speak. And we can see that we have 20 gig at the end without doing any manual operations.
That's
obviously.
pretty cool though, yeah. And in crisis situations, I'm sure this will be a very nifty thing to have, given that you do not have to manually go and figure it out if you've already applied the policies.
Right. And you don't want to wait until you run out of storage. to do
Yeah.
that manually.
Or
right.
prevention is always better than cure.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a reason for that saying, I guess.
So, and the last one we wanted to show you is DR, because obviously that's great to have a running Rancher cluster with application in production, but more and more regulations, compliance needs from enterprise to protect, to add another layer of protection to the application. And obviously having some disaster recovery and business continuity features is becoming mandatory, if not yet.
Yeah.
So we have with Portworx a module called Portworx DR, and we are able to replicate application between two clusters, wherever the clusters are, and we can configure the RPO, RTO depending on your needs. So it could be synchronous replication or asynchronous replication.
Right.
What we do is we just take two Rancher cluster, we establish a logical link, we call that a cluster pair between the two, and then you can configure replication per application. So in this example, I have two Rancher clusters that are running, and the first thing I want to show you is the cluster pair. So cluster pair is the relationship between two clusters. So it just means, okay, I'm able to talk with the source and destination control plane for Kubernetes. I'm able to talk to the destination Portworx cluster, and that's it. I'm ready to replicate application. So that's the first thing we need to do when we configure our DR. So as you can see, that's very easy to configure. And then we will take a look at another very important object, is to configure the replication itself. So the replication, it's an object that we call a migration schedule, and it's as simple as that. So very important part is first, what do we want to replicate? So in this case, we will replicate a namespace called Portworx Barbecue. That's our demo application. Another interesting information is which resources do you want to migrate? It could be, okay, I just want to protect my object, my Kubernetes manifest, or I want to protect my data, or I want to protect my whole application. So you can finally customize and tune what you want to replicate. And finally, the schedule, because obviously it's when or how often do you want to replicate your application. So all this information are put in the migration schedule object. And once you've defined that object, obviously we will just apply it, and that's it. So once we apply the object, the replication will start. Then what we want to do, obviously, is to test it. So we have our demo application, Portworx Barbecue. So I will try to create an order. That's perfect. It's noon. So we create an order, and then we will wait for the ongoing replication to end. So we take a look at the replication. So that's TorqueCTL, which is one of Portworx tool. And we can see that the replication is in progress. So we are replicating the volume first with containing the new order into our MongoDB database. Then we will replicate the resources. Obviously, we accelerated a bit the
Yeah.
video, not to wait for the replication. And once that's done, we know that our application or consistent application has been replicated to the destination cluster. So now we simulate the failure of the source cluster. We connect to the destination cluster. I'm changing the context. And then with one command line, I will trigger the disaster recovery plan. It's storectl activate. And now my application has been started by Portworx on the destination cluster without the source cluster available. So we can say that the pods have been started. And obviously, what we want to check is that if we have our order into our database.
Yeah.
So we connect to the source, to the destination cluster, and we can see that we have our latest order into the database.
That is cool.
So as ADV has one object, the migration schedule, we are able to configure per application the level of protection we want for this application. And in a very easily manner, as you can see, and it could be from on-premises rancher to a rancher hosted in another place on public clouds and so on. So we maximize the time of the people operating the cluster. We provide enterprise-grade features like BCDR, and obviously it will optimize the business of our customers because today, and maybe you've heard about the new DORA regulation, and we have so many regulations, so today that's mandatory to have this kind of features, and we provide it to rancher users as well.
Yeah, and that's, I think, very nifty, and it really does add emphasis to the partnership that we have, because you give the users, or rather, our partnership gives the users the theme of choice again, right? You go as granular as you want, you go as deep as you want, or you remain as shallow as you want when it comes to the level of safety and the level of, the level of protection that you're providing to your data. It doesn't need to be prescribed, or it doesn't need to be sort of thrust upon you that you have to do this particular thing or that particular thing. You choose and you actually take that decision to go wherever you want or whatever you want to do based on your requirements. And you don't have to listen to us, although, having a best practices set does work, but just, giving that choice really does help, better the ecosystem and help it thrive further and grow further as, newer technologies come up, whether it's AI or whether it's whatever comes next after AI. I still don't know that, but whatever comes next, that collaboration still remains alive. So I know I rambled there for a bit, but thank you so much, nevertheless, for hopping on and for taking our time to come and speak with us. It's been a real pleasure.
Likewise, and thank you for inviting us.
It was a pleasure having you here, and hope to catch up in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll
not
see you on
few-
the show floor.
Yeah, we'll see you on the show floor and at the party tonight. So yeah, see you around. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.